Total War has been in a weird position these past 5 years, and that's because CA decided to begin making Warhammer games.
This action does not have my consent.
This marked the beginning of a trend which has divided the player base into lovers and haters of the fantasy games, although there are some, thank God, who love both. In the past 2 years, Total War tried to do something in between with Three Kingdoms, retaining some historical accuracy, but with a bunch of mythological and supernatural flavor. What I want to talk about in this video though, is more specifically the legacy of the Total War Saga Troy and its Mythos expansion pack. And if not answer, then at least ask the question, should every historical Total War game receive a Mythos expansion? And you know, I'll answer that right now. Heck yeah they should! Okay, let me explain before you feed me to Cerberus. Total War Troy has quickly become one of my favorite Total War games. It takes place in a historical/mythological time period, but still gives us two distinct options. A historical mode which attempts to showcase the time period as it might have been, and a mythological mode with gods, monsters, and everything between. And we don't talk about the truth behind the myth mode. So here's the thing about Troy. It began as a game that didn't really commit to anything exactly because of this in-between mode that we won't talk about. But with the Mythos expansion, Troy showed that it too could be amazing. It brought so much of what we know from ancient Greek mythology and actually brought it into the game, making for battles like those in Warhammer games, but with a much more recognizable and palatable historical background for us history lovers. It's actually so good that it elevated Troy completely and fully overshadows the historical mode because it feels rather bare bones in comparison. So here it comes again, guys. I think this formula should be copied for every Total War game where applicable, and that could quickly become a rather wide range of games. But before you leave me a hate comment, hear me out, will you? And listen to this, because I think it could be awesome. Imagine Total War Rome 3. Just imagine it for a second. I actually imagined it for about 13 minutes and 20 seconds in my video on Rome 3. Total War Rome 3 needs to be a thing. In other words, Rome 2 needs a sequel. Said less plainly, Rome Total War needs to be the first game in a trilogy of Roman-era Total War games, with Rome Remastered being nothing more than a warm-up to an upcoming Rome 3. Rome times 3, if you'd like. There, I said it. Rome, Rome, Rome! But let's imagine it together this time, once more. Imagine a Rome 3 that wasn't effed up at launch. Imagine a game with now cutting-edge graphics and performance, a game with family trees, deep political systems, fertility and vital food mechanics, improved diplomacy, and everything else you want. Just imagine your ideal Rome 3. It's nice, isn't it? It's nice. This is nice.
That is nice. That is nice.
But imagine a Rome 3 with all of those things, but with a Mythos expansion that not only adds the Greek gods, but Roman gods. And let's not stop there. What about ancient Egyptian gods coming back to reclaim Egypt from Alexander's heirs, or, and this is a doozy, Norse gods, Odin, Frey, Balder and Thor clashing against Mars and Jupiter, Valkyries fighting in the hundreds against some supercharged Praetorian overlords or something. I admit it might sound a bit cheesy, but also, I think it sounds absolutely hilarious and so much fun. It would help not only to diversify factions, but also make the religious aspects of the game so much more important and vital. People back then actually believed that everything about their religious beliefs were real and physically present in this world, and if we could have a historical and a mythical mode in Rome 3, then why not? But let's go further. Why not have a Mythos mode in Medieval 3, where Jesus Christ goes up against Muhammad, and actually maybe that one is a step too far. I admit that one could have been weird. But back to Rome 3 and how it suddenly works again. The mechanic could even work much like Habitability works in Warhammer 2, where gods of the people can't move or be present outside of the country's borders. That way, gods become agents of protecting the homeland, which I think kind of preserves some of the original feel of the ancient era as well. People used to think of gods as theirs or others, and certainly Romans did not think of Egyptian gods as legitimate, at least not compared to their own. But I think this could work as a gameplay mechanic as well. If gods were only allowed to be used in your own territory, they would be mostly defensive agents, which help to preserve some factions from going under too fast. Perhaps certain missions or reaching certain thresholds could allow you to actually make them become attacking units as well, opening up a sort of middle or endgame sequence where total war has been reached and the gods lend you all their strength to fight for their nation. I think a big reason why I liked Troy Mythos so well is because it added things that really changed up the formula. We've seen Warhammer before, sure, but nothing like this in an otherwise historical Total War game. Maybe that says more about Total War than it does about Mythos, that Total War has kind of stopped innovating where it matters, this being in the realistic or deep management of an empire. Of course, Troy was a step forward in my opinion. It added a beautiful new UI and made every faction unique by making specific mechanics tailor-made for each one. We can say the same about the Warhammer games. They're arguably the most diverse Total War games ever. Even Through Kingdoms did a lot in the way it treated your generals as individuals with many ways to power them up, or in the way it completely revamped diplomacy in a majorly good way. Future historical Total War games will perhaps never need or require Mythos expansions then. What they require are improvements, however, in campaign mechanics and depth, in how we rule our empires, manage our populations, supply our armies and garrison our cities, and of course how we conduct diplomacy and politics, even how we vassalize or annex foreign nations. But that doesn't mean Mythos modes won't be welcome additions to these. I think this is important to mention because Mythos was in fact the addition which in my eyes makes Troy somewhat of a masterpiece. But when we look at the historical mode, nothing was really added, yet many things were taken away, leaving a very workable campaign, but one which all of a sudden lacks some flavor, some complexity, and perhaps just a breath of fresh air. Mythos certainly can't compensate for lacking mechanics then, but I think it could add some flavor to campaigns and time periods where this would make sense, and can give both historical, mythological, and fantasy players a good deal of fun in the very same game. So, if you ask me, I think it would be pretty cool if when we got a Rome 3, that it would include a Mythos expansion. And the same would go for other games focusing on factions where this could be done well. But what do you think? Did you play Troy and love Mythos just like me? Did you enjoy it? Would you like to see more mythological stuff as optional campaign mechanics in future Total War games? Or do you absolutely hate everything supernatural? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed the video, I really hope you'll consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel. It would mean a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!